Hello everyone, it's SK95. Welcome to my new Let's Play of Xenoblade Chronicles X, Definitive Edition, Nintendo Switch. This game is a re-release of the original game back on the Wii U, which was, oh dear goodness sake, 2015? Yeah, it was a long time from the first time Xenoblade Chronicles X was introduced. Sadly, it was on a failing system, so didn't exactly do as much popularity-wise. Although, to be fair though, it's actually a big departure from the first game. It has its own gimmicks as well as its own combat scenarios and its own story. Not only that, Xenoblade Chronicles X is a unique take on the Xenoblade series. So anyway, we should just get started on this Xenoblade game because I actually do enjoy X a lot.
July 2054 AD. The Earth was caught in a great battle between unknown alien forces. Their weapons were terrifying and powerful beyond human reckoning. Our planet was overwhelmed, its surface reduced to ash and rubble in the blink of an eye. The Coalition government knew the war was coming. In response, they prepared the Earth-Life Colonization Project, Project Exodus. Interstellar arcs were launched all across the planet, from every major city on Earth. Bravely, we leapt from our cradle, our home for the last 4.5 billion years. But most of the arcs never even made it out of the atmosphere. Only a small handful managed to escape. Among them was our ship, the White Whale. After leaving Earth behind, we spent 2 years wandering in space, searching. We thought of ourselves as the lucky ones, the pioneers who would settle a new world. But our past caught up with us. Literally. The alien blitz was unrelenting. If not for the efforts of a lone hero, we would never have survived. Our ship took heavy damage. We lost control. With our flight systems down, the White Whale was pulled into the gravitational field of a nearby planet, its hull shattering and breaking to pieces as we plummeted toward the surface. Since then, 2 months have passed.
Alright, well this game is different from other Xenoblade games, and a big departure is the fact you have a custom curated character. Basically, you can choose from either male or female depending on the character. You can even customize them to the point where you can even make them look like other Xenoblade characters as well. Now, originally, back in the Japanese version, on the Wii U version of the game, yeah, the female had the ability to change the bust size. Yeah, not in this version, though. The game no longer does that anymore, and there's no reason to worry about it. For the sake of clarity and the sake of the fact that I generally don't pick the female, I'm gonna pick male. And I'm going to change the outfits and change designs. Now, I typically am going to go through the process just because it's a bit easier to explain the process here rather than later, but I do have a design automatically I know of that's going to be done. So this is for the height, skin color, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker, and then I'm going to make his cheeks a little thinner, and then make a scar over there, and then a mole. Nope, no moles entirely. Let's change his hairstyle to, well, a hairstyle that I want. Let's go with this hairstyle. Let's go with this cowlick. Cowlicks are actually different for each size, and then we're gonna give him a beard. The beard color is gonna be separate from the original color, so yeah, let's make it like that, and then let's make it like that. All right, there we go. That one's done. Now for the eyes, we can change the eye shape to any eye color we so wish, which is very easy to do. So if you want to view the model outright, you can actually press the L stick and then zoom in by holding L and then holding R. Sadly though, the zoom in is pretty small in comparison. In fact, it's probably one of the more weaker zoom ins because you can't actually see the eyes like that. You have to wait to zoom in into the entire face before you can see the eye color. I'm gonna do this eye shape, and we're gonna go with the color of the eyes. I think I'm gonna go with the actual eye color being green, and then the inner pupil, I want to make it, yeah, I'm gonna make it this color. It makes more sense, to be honest. And now makeup, I usually don't put makeup on my characters because there's no eyeshadow requirement. But there is face paint colors, so let's actually give him face paint. This one is going to be this one. I want to go with this one. There we go. All done with that, and next we can change the voice of the character. In fact, a lot of the voices in this game can be brought back from the original game. One of them, in particular, the classic Adam Hardwin, is actually, well, listen.
They staggered me. Shall we? Shall we? Sorry, but it was you or us.
Shulk from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Yes. Generally speaking, a lot of the actors are important and definitely have their own voice lines. The other female character has similar voices, similar to a different character. I won't explain that until the end of the episode, and I'll show off what they voices have for the female counterpart as well, because I'm going to be showing for the male, though. So, let us get started. Gabriel Civic will be the rebel, and then everything is all good to go. By the way, you can change the VR room by pressing ZL or ZR. Only 2 fields, sadly, Holofield Forest and Holofield Plains. Really, not much different. The VR room is just a general room that you use outright, so let us get started and finish this off.
Attention, external access confirmed. Disengaging stasis in 10 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Releasing hatch. Please stand clear.
Hey there. Looks like you're all in one piece. Careful. Just take it nice and slow, okay? Your senses will need time to reactivate. Your pod is the only one around that landed intact. Good thing I found you. My name's Elma. You want to tell me yours? You don't even remember your own name? It must be the stasis hangover. That's not good. Just try and focus, all right?
So in this game, we can actually choose the name of our, we can choose the name of our character. So generally speaking, for LPs that have like a silent protagonist, I usually go with my real name with Nick, but I don't want to do that. Instead, let's actually make something fun. Good thing I had this all set up, ready to go before then, because I really don't want to waste my time with this. Crick, a combination between Cross and Nick. Yeah, it's actually pretty easy when you think about it. By the way, the actual character's name, no matter what gender, is always Cross. So, here we go.
Good, there we go. What else you remember? It'll come. In the meantime, I'll get you up to speed here as best I can. How are your limbs? Can you move?
Show your body is working fine. Nod.
We'll take it easy while you shake the stasis out of your system. One step at a time, all right? First things first, you'll be needing a weapon. There you go. All right, let's get going.
Prologue, The Awakening. So, we started off in Primordia's region, and we actually started in an area that's known as the Starfall Basin. So, Xenoblade Chronicles itself, as you know fully well, Xenoblade Chronicles is a game that's a JRPG. Now, the combat itself works incredibly similar to the first game, and I am definitely glad to talk about it. Also, the fact is, your character does not just have one weapon. Oh, no. Instead, you have two weapons to switch with the X button. This actually works very well in combat, and their auto attacks are separate. So, yeah, very good. Also, another thing that is note is Elma is like 4 levels above us. Yeah, that's definitely a throw-off, isn't it? Anyway, let's actually go over to our objective to see our story objectives. We need to do this in order to continue the story.
Most of the White Whale's life pods didn't survive the crash. Like this one. You're one of the lucky few. Right. You don't even remember the White Whale, do you? You know, the L002? The ship we escaped Earth on? You remember Earth, right? Planet Earth. Your homeworld. Or rather, it used to be anyway. Unfortunately, it was caught in a battle between 2 alien forces. And destroyed. Ring any bells? Don't feel bad. It's one memory I'd like to forget. I know. It's been following me for a while now. I didn't want to alarm you, but we're going to need to defend ourselves. You up to the task?
Enemy wildlife detected. This is our wildlife, the Oregon Blonde. Now, we start off with a proto-assault rifle. Press the gun in order to do a chain in order to get morale level up. The weapon you have is known as a machine gun, and the other one is known as a proto-knife. The auto rifle is actually a good auto attack weapon and has a topple art on top of it. Really useful to have in order to start the enemy down, and Flame Grenade does a lot more damage on toppled enemies.
You're not half bad. There's plenty of work back in the city for someone who knows how to handle a weapon, you know.
I show interest in finding work because I do not like sitting around doing nothing.
Then you're interested. In that case, I might have just the job for you. But anyway, we can talk more details later. For now, let's keep moving.
By the way, you get drop spending on the ranking rarities. Technically speaking, it goes from bronze all the way to gold in this game. Advanced Storm Assault Rifle. However, there's a downside to this Advanced Assault Rifle. You can change your weapons at any time with the gear and go to the gear. Now, in the first game, you can collect any gear you want, change the gear option. You pretty much equip anything regardless of your level. Not so much in this game. There are level caps to each one of the gears in the game. And in fact, it's probably one of the more things that is not exactly favored in the game. Generally speaking, you have to level up in order to reach certain area gear, because now this one is not available to you unless you reach level 3. Technically speaking, a lot of weapon types are locked behind level gears. In the first game, the max level of gear was 60, and your character level was 60. But besides that, though, let's actually continue on and go try to show over this life pod over here, because it's actually quite important. By pressing the A button, you can actually field action in order to collect treasure. You want to do this in order to collect a lot more treasure and actually get some more items. A pro top bodywear for ourselves. You can generally also mess with Elma's gear as well, but if you want to, but it's better off if you start with yourself first. Elma naturally already has a higher level than you and a better gear set. Because as you plainly can see, she actually has better weaponry right now, and her body gear naturally gives her beam resist. Has an 80 beam resist, so her entire kit is better for that entirely. Now, I might as well talk about the class we are. We are known as a Drifter class. Drifter classes are quite, well, the first basic option you'd have in the beginning of the game. Not exactly too different. We also leveled up from field actions. Regardless of that, back to the Drifter class is probably the first one you start off with and the one you're going to be starting with outright. Also, we can collect items from the field. Notice let's be yourself. Man, I have a lot to talk about with this one. But besides that, though, the classes themselves are quite important because your character can change to any class you want to on the fly. This is similar to how Xenoblade Chronicles 3 worked for those who are familiar with that game. This game, however, you have to level up to get to those classes because unlike the first game, you have to actually have class experience up to max in order to reach a new class. Basically, that's how it works. So, outright speaking, we get to succeed the treasure and iron knife. Now then, let's go and equip that iron knife because it's better than our proto knife. I might as well talk about the stats. Total melee attack goes together with melee attack and melee accuracy. Basically, this is how it means your physical attacks will do damage. Range attack is a combination of range attack and range accuracy. The higher the bow, higher the better. Potential is different. It's for something known as a gimmick known as soul voices. Soul voices are the action prompts that you see on screen. If you time it right, or have the better actions correctly, such as the character calling out what certain art you need to do, then you will actually heal HP. And the higher you get, the more potential will heal the HP. Really useful to have. Max HP is obvious, defense is obvious. Unlike other games in the series, though, where you basically want to max out your defense as much as possible, it's a static number. Meaning arts that do percentage damage will do more damage to you no matter what. You're better off looking at the resistance for that. Evasion is self-explanatory. We all know how evasion works. TP is an interesting system that allows you to do better talent arts, or rather better arts. But I'll get into that when we get into a special art for TP because we don't have access to anything yet. The only one that has access to it is Elma. Now, in order to engage in combat in the field, you can just do this and start the battle. Generally speaking, I usually try to put the sidearm first instead of the firearm, but it's better to go one or the other. Time your attack, and then you can actually attack these proto-brothers. Generally speaking, you want to make sure you keep an eye out of what weapons you have. And you start to stagger. Stagger is basically your break in this game. Now, there's no days in this game. Don't worry about it. And we got ourselves an art with a chrome armor. Balance can also increase your attack power, or rather, your class level. Generally speaking, it depends on the class. As you know fully well, if you're under-leveled and beat an enemy that's higher level than you, you get more experience. This is also true for class experience. The lower level you are to the enemy, the more experience you get out of it. It's actually really useful to go after higher level enemies in order to do so. There is a downside to this, though, as you plainly can understand, because you're running the risk of actually killing yourself for that. Now, this is Xenoblade Chronicles X. Sadly, there is no water combat unlike Xenoblade 3. So for those who are used to it, no Xenoblade 3 combat. So you're going to have to go in no matter what. Next up is Elma's class. Elma's class is a Full Metal Jaguar. Full Metal Jaguar is an interesting class and actually quite useful. By the way, you press the L stick, you can actually dash around the area. Basically, it's a lot easier to run outright. You can also jump with the ZR button. Really useful to have. You can also hold the button down to do a bigger jump. Very high jumping compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Now, these enemies actually have their own identifiers of sight and sound. If you walk up to the front of them, they will attack you. If you try running around them, they will attack you. Basically, that's how it works. It's actually quite useful. If the enemy only has one or the other, though, you can actually go either out of their line of sight or walk in order to avoid the enemy. There are only 2 types, though, in this game. There's no third like Aether-based. Now then, let's actually engage in combat with these Noctoblantas.
Send them back.
Shooting them, shoot them. Chrono Armor is interesting. Grants you a physical resist up and actually does no damage. So it's actually quite useful in case you need to boost your damage. Or rather, take less hits. Survivability in this game is very important for later. Now, in this game, sadly, we're not in the point yet where we can actually show off the massive improvements of the combat system that got overhauled compared to the first game's version on the Wii U. The Wii U's version was very, very slow. And the hostiles neutralized, and we can constantly get this one as well. Cooldowns increase in speed the better you have equipped, your weapons equipped. Your auto attacks are separate as well. Basically, you want to make sure your system is completely okay to keep going. Sadly, though, top floors, no matter what, always at the slowest rate of recharge. So, yeah, you got to make sure you're careful. And we are needing to build service to resist because I'm just taking heavy hits. I really don't like that. Timing the action chain is actually very useful to get so, and I think it's dead. All right, ranked up again. Blata Wing. Boo. Anyway, your objective, obviously, is, of course, to go to that symbol for the story objective. So, here we go. Let's go to the story objective. And watch as the game unfolds.
The rain's starting to let up, just in time for sunrise. Follow me. I promise you're gonna love this. Pretty wild, huh? They're all indigenous, as far as we can tell. We need to learn to play nice with these guys if we're going to try and coexist together. We call this planet Mira. You won't find it on any star chart. but it's our new home. Recognize the habitat unit? That's where we're headed. Watch yourself. That first step's a doozy. We can jump if you like. You could handle the fall. But the indigents down there are another story. Some big, some mean, all nasty. Given our options, the high road here would be the safer way to go, relatively speaking. That said, whichever way you want to go, I'll follow your lead. You decide.
So you have two pathways to get to the area to the habitat unit. Now, we can technically go jump down and you will not take fall damage. Well, the reason you don't take fall damage is something I'll explain in the game, and I'd rather not explain it there. Becoming incapacitated is actually quite important to talk about. Unlike the first game where you can become incapacitated, you need a party gauge to revive yourself, TP is required in order to revive yourself from battle. Generally speaking, you need 3,000 TP before you can actually revive yourself in battle, or rather 3,000 TP for your party member to actually revive you. Now, in the first original game on the Wii U, the only way to change the time at all was these buildings over here near Rise Shadow BC. You'd use these buildings to change the time no matter what, and it always was a slower process. In this game, not so much. You can actually change the time by going to system settings and changing time. You can change it to any time you want, and the military time does work and helps it a lot more. There's only 3 base times though. Basically, the times that you really need to. Now then, another thing we need to do is actually go over here because there's actually something over here next to these dang suits. There's a wreck trailer here. Wreck trailers usually have better items. These actually have good experience and a prototype scouter. Ah yes, scouter. What's this power level of this nonsense? Over 9,000. Yes indeed. Prototype Scouter is actually quite useful and it's actually quite good. Electric resistance plus 30, meaning it's going in the positives. I take less damage now. Quite useful to have. Have a better gear, have a better equipment, and you're good. Some gear, however, are not so good because her gear doesn't generally need this. All it does is increase her physical defense up by 1, but loses a lot of resistance. Some gear has minus resistance. You're better off just not bothering with the resistance gear if you don't want it. Prototype knife, yeah, prototype knife is not exactly needed anymore, so we're not exactly bothered by it. Now, this game actually has a lot more features in terms of combat. As you can see, that icon on that suit is going to mean it's going to attack us no matter what. Some arts actually do have a range difference, so you want to be careful who you target. And we just need to be careful when you want to do so. Now, I might as well talk about enemy body parts. Let's say I decide to be funny and go for the head of this brass suit.
Let's see what you've got.
As you see, the yellow bar is going down after being hit so many times. You want to make sure this bar goes all the way down to 0. Let's go smack it again to do a topple, and then let's use flame grenade to do more damage. It's about to shatter now. Now, there's benefits of losing an appendage on the enemy. When they lose an appendage, their damage decreases based on the appendage that's hit. And another thing is quite important. The damage of some arts are gone from the enemy if it loses all body parts needed, and except only a left body.
Upper hand.
Damage output decreases, output of your damage output on the enemy increases, as well as the combat's damage as well. It's just generally a better idea to get rid of enemy body parts. Now, is there a reason to, as well, to affect the items dropped? Yes, because you actually get better item drops if you destroy body parts. I'm going to be fighting a few of these enemies because it's generally better to actually fight enemies on the field because it's better off. And try that, and Postia neck and sadly though, this whole hammer missed. So unfortunately, I didn't get the top art off. I might as well just use frag grenade just because. No bonus damage to the dang up status and no actual blaze effect that's increased damage. So yeah, pretty annoying. Rank up, Slit Edge. Familiar from Xenoblade Chronicles 1, very good. Blazzy Fur, yep, general arts. The indigents here go on a ranking system, but first, let us actually go to our arts instead. Arts are quite important in order to upgrade. We can upgrade them based on the battle points we have in our system. Both characters have battle points that are separate from another. So, generally speaking, Stream Edge is also considered an art that will basically do more damage and has TP cost. Run out of TP, you cannot use TP arts. Self-explanatory. Really, you just need to make sure you don't run out of TP arts. Child Strike Stagger is actually quite useful, and in fact, you want to level this up first out of all the arts. Because that way, its cooldown decreases, and you can use it more often. For yourself and your character, you're going to start with 2 arts that are actually pretty useful, but Slit Edge and Stream Edge are actually quite useful and effective. Generally speaking, though, I recommend to decrease the cooldown on your dang topple art because in the beginning, you're going to need this art. And generally speaking, I'd rather have it. Now, on to skills. Drifter class, out of all the classes in the game, has 5 skill slots. Other classes up to max of 4. Yeah, generally speaking, the Drifter class is the best when it comes to skill ranking. And in fact, in later game, at the end of game point, the class is better off than the best choice if you want the best class in the game. There's a reason, however, there's a reason why I say you don't need to work with weapons. For later, though. Anyway, this suit is a slave. We don't actually have to bother with him right now. In fact, we can ignore him. As you see this large enemy here, do not engage it in battle. Just warning you right now, large enemies have advantages over the medium-sized enemies that you've encountered, as well as small-sized enemies. Large enemies do not get affected by certain arts, and some large enemies, in fact, are outright immune to certain effects. Some enemies in particular are actually quite immune to it. In fact, a lot of the large enemies are immune to the effects of a certain staggering ability, or rather, even better, or worse, being launched in the air. Medium-sized enemies and small enemies aren't affected by it. If you get attacked, you're basically going to mean that you don't get extra hits, and that's the damage output increase.
Look at that!
And boom. There we go. Now we're actually having our combat system better. As you can see, Slit Edge definitely helps with damage output. So, as you plainly can see, you can generally switch characters on the fly. You can even switch party members and leads in the time by just going to active members and swapping to the control character. You have affinity system as well. You want to max out your affinity of each character. Another thing you want to keep an eye on, of course, being combat as well as gameplay. As you can see, for whatever reason, the little suit, for whatever reason, is highly aggressive for no reason. I will never understand the logic behind it, but it is. Anyway, let's start for hearts. Now, since we attacked the little suit, the other one has started to attack us. Yeah, definitely obvious. Elma, no matter what, based on our AI, will usually go for an art that will basically cause break first and then do topple, allow us to do topple. Really useful to have. Now, you're wondering why I'm not using the art yet. I generally should, right? Well, instead, you want to leave it to a second charge and go to the line all the way around. Sledge is now doing bonus damage completely otherwise. Now, as you see, she's trying to tell us to do an aura we don't have. That's a soul voice activation. If you manage to get the timing as well as the art used, you get HP as well as bonus effects. And she's being affected by it badly. Okay. And nope. Sadly speaking, the Slit Edge is not exactly the highest in damage output. If you leveled it up, then it's going to be a better damage output. Anyway, there we go. Sadly, the Fessima suit is not exactly being good. By the way, medium-sized enemies have a better chance of being toppled regardless of being staggered. Yes, it does not matter if they're staggered. Only big enemies actually worry about being staggered and then broken. You're better off making sure that a small enemy can be staggered instantly, but at the same time, not all enemies can be staggered instantaneously, though. You want to be careful. So, besides that, though, there's actually something over here you want to go to. You can actually avoid enemies entirely if you jump and reach out of the range. However, as you plainly can see, this guy will attack us no matter what. Let's actually go smack him with bullets. Anyway, this enemy is actually going to be easy to fake. There we go. Slit Edge. Boink. And more damage and bonus damage. Sadly, though, we're not going to do as much as we want. Let's go for more armor to do so in order to resist damage output. By the way, in case you're wondering, its cooldown is decently high, so you have to keep an eye on it. Since we broke a body part as well, breaking body parts usually guarantees the aggro changing. But it's generally better that you make sure you're careful. Alright, ranked up again. We're already ranked 5. That's actually quite quick. Buzzed headwear. Now, buzzed headwear is not exactly that good. By the way, there's actually something up there if you want to go to it. If you want to get up there, it's actually a simple matter. You just need to climb up the rocks in order to get there. Now, I might as well warn you all right now. You're probably wondering, why the heck do you not take fall damage? You're a human, right? Well, I'm not going to explain that until we get to a certain point in the game. I'd rather not explain things that are not generally needed in the story yet. This is a white whale debris. Very useful. Let's go and grab it. They usually get the most experience and give you a mining probe. Well, there's a reason why. Anyway, we actually got part of Primordia, like, safe. Or rather, you know, something that was available access to the map. But we won't talk about that yet. Meantime, no, let's actually continue on our adventure. You're probably wondering, well, can you at least show what happens if you try to fight this big enemy? Well, I don't want to, because that means death. And I'm not exactly confident in Elma actually keeping TP, because Elma is TP spammy when it comes to her classes. By the way, you're probably thinking, like, can I target the other suit then and not have to worry about the other suit attacking me, right?
Get this started.
Let's see what you've got.
Yeah, no. You're basically going to be attacked no matter what. Trust me, I've tried repeatedly. It made me always so annoyed.
Move in and strike.
Well, yeah, now your foot is broken.
Room armor.
All right, there we go. And we actually deal some more damage. Generally speaking, Slit Edge is actually the fastest art. Technically speaking, this is also the same for Xenoblade Chronicles 1. But it's probably better than Xenoblade 1 because it doesn't just do damage, but it also lowers defense. But in this game, not so much. Yeah, the little suit actually has breakable parts. And staggered. Yeah, you can get staggered as well. This also relates to you being toppled, so try not to get staggered too much.
Lock this.
And lock this. Your butt's broken.
Look at that.
All right, there we go. Early Bird's actually quite useful as an arc. Actually, it helps her out a lot. Breaking all body parts actually increases the topple chance.
That's true.
I'm only level 6, quite useful. And we got Warren Survival Specs. Anyway, let's go in. Not skills. Yes, the game keeps it whatever it has. By the way, if you level up, you get battle points. Quite useful to have. Yeah, as you can tell, helmet, I get beam resist, but I lose all the electric resist I get. Elma actually prefers having the effect of having a headgear that will basically keep her safe. And in fact, to make her beam resist 100%. However, as you mainly can tell, your gravity resist will go down no matter what. You're probably wondering, gee, I don't want Elma to wear a helmet though. What do I do? Well, there's actually a way to get around that and not have to worry about that. Fashion gear. Fashion gear just changes the outfit and look depending on the gear you have access to. For Elma in particular, you can actually change to the Sakura Blade style and actually get rid of the outfit headgear entirely. Of course, this means there's a weapon there and you can't exactly get rid of it. There is a better way to do that though, by going to the system settings, going to settings outright, and actually going over to the UI and changing something. Because actually you can do this. You can actually change certain UI to the point where you can even get rid of, I believe it was in, where was it? You can do show headgear or show headgear ground gear. You can turn this off and Elma no longer worries about headgear. So actually quite useful. Also, she gets better resistance, so it's better off that you get her better headgear anyway. So, while these enemies are quite inconsequential, you don't really have to worry about fighting them all that much, but we might as well fight them just for the sake of experience, because you're gonna need a decent amount of experience before you get to the next town or their best area. And I screwed up. Great. Topple art did not exactly pan out as I want. Anyway, get ourselves bonus resistance. Brass suits are actually quite more annoying. Broke the head, now you gotta break the butt. Yep, Elma's gonna keep asking us to get the butt. I will talk about soul voices in more detail when we get the ability to check the soul voices. I'd rather do that in the next episode. But right now, though, I'm not exactly too concerned about it. By the way, the cooldown on arts changes depending on what art you've equipped. Technically speaking, topple will increase. Ow. Yeah, not fun. Not exactly fun to get smacked like that. Anyway, flame grenade.
Flame grenade. Easy peasy.
Nice work.
Infuriates. Orange Survivor Souls, and it's actually a different rarity. Now, what does rarity mean? By the way, I went there again. Infuriates basically a taunt. The Souls is a different rarity. Technically speaking, the rarity goes all the way from common all the way to up to intergalactic rank. Now, this is actually quite a good item because guess what? I actually have untouchable, dashing, boosting evasion while sprinting, and topple chances when being toppled, I can actually cause a decoy to appear. Well, it's generally better that you have better gear and whatnot. It's generally better that you do so. It's also really good as a weapon gear as well as equipment piece. So let's actually change our gear and actually keep it along. We technically could give this to Elma because of beam resist, but she generally doesn't need as much beam resist as you may think. Beam resist is actually quite useful against beam weapons, but nothing else. If we go over here to this vehicle wreckage, we can actually get ourselves a lot more. Yes, Storm Assault Rifle, actually way better than our regular rifle. In fact, we've reached the point where we can actually equip a better weapon. Storm Assault Rifle or the Proto Assault Rifle, really it just depends on what you want. Advanced Storm Assault Rifle may seem good in theory, but in practice, you want the gear that actually helps you a lot more. For example, this one is actually have a range attack up, meaning I do more damage. The other one is just Mechanoid Slayer, which isn't exactly needed. The higher rarity of the gear, the better items and better skills they have equipped to their weapon type. It's just generally better that you have equipment that's actually what you want onto the gear. Otherwise, you run into having a problem where your equipment that you have is terrible. As you plainly are aware, if you try to fight higher level enemies than you will take a lot more damage and you'll probably die an instantaneous hit. Now, these items here are quite important for something known as the Collectopedia. Yes, in this game there's a Collectopedia, in every Xenoblade game there's a Collectopedia, and this one is no exception. By going to Intel, you can actually check it, but you can't do it yet. We have to wait a while before we can actually access the Collectopedia yet. Because though, we actually reached the Westgate Plain. It's actually where we need to be and actually where we have to go. But as you can see, our path is blocked by a certain suit.
What? Let's see what you've got.
I had a funny feeling that would happen.
Shadow strike.
Alright. No. And there we go. A lot of damage. Now you're probably wondering, what happens with the aggro's on Elma instead? Infuriates. Infuriate forces the aggro to go to you instead and target you. This is quite useful in case you do a combo where you basically resist damage as well. There we go, and please die. To subdue her means that killed a lot of suits in my time. So it's actually getting close to nighttime, and in fact, it is nighttime, so the moon is now out. Well, not one moon, but many moons! Besides that, though, there's enemies on the field that have sound base, and we've triggered something to get to the base.
Looks a lot bigger up close, doesn't it? And this was just the habitat unit. The white whale was one hell of a ship. Until it all came crashing down, at least. That's the West Gate. It's closed off now for security reasons. But we've repurposed a freight elevator that will get us inside. Grexes. And they're riled. We can't leave them roaming here, not this close to the gate. We're gonna have to take them down. You ready?
Rexes, the final area boss. So these Rexes can actually have a targetable point on their tail. You break the tail, and their damage output decreases intensely high. Alright, tail's gone, and this thing's about to die. Alright, level up to level 5. In fact, that's quite useful for me. Anyway, let's use a combo of Chrome Armor and Infuriate. Infuriate doesn't really do as much damage as it may appear, so better off just being careful. Elma doesn't exactly have many ways of safely taking hits, so you may as well make sure our aggro is onto us. Sadly, though, I can't exactly talk about Elma's class yet until we get to a certain point. Although I will say her class is better at TP use as well as range as combos. It just generally depends on what you want personally for Elma, because her class is good for that. And please stab. Oh, it's basically dead. There we go.
It's a shame we had to settle near so much wildlife. Luckily, some species aren't so hostile, but they aren't necessarily friendly either. I've come to learn that there's a fine line between self-defense and provoking a fight. We need to walk that line. All right, let's head in. Who knows? Maybe seeing the inside will jog your memory.
By the way, we get gold equipment as well. Advanced Survival Sleeve R, actually quite useful. And now we can actually go and pause in order to actually get that new R to ourselves. So, if you want to check right or left arm, technically speaking, it's actually good. Sadly, though, as very great of an item is, there's a problem with it. I can't equip it yet. I had to be level 8 in order to actually equip this thing. Yeah, Grexes can drop those things around their level, so the lower level Grexes can actually drop them, but it's just generally better off that you don't do so. There's actually enemies around here, those Vespers that are sound-based enemies. Just walk to avoid them. Anyway, we're actually getting closer and closer to where we need to be, and in fact, reaching the habitat unit. So, there's actually someone over here named Piers. A lot of characters' names have different affinities as well as what their gear is. Having just woken up after all that time, I'm sure you're dying to just get home and take a shower. Unfortunately, the west gate's closed in the moment. If you want to enter the city, you'll need to use the elevator at the top of the stairs. You'll probably open the gates soon thanks to the great work you guys did killing the monsters that were causing all that trouble. But until then, you have to forgive the inconvenience, please understand. Alright, let's go up here and instead talking to peers. So, a lot of characters in the game, you want to talk to everyone you want to, so there's an elevator here to climb up. Let's actually go up and climb. We're only in the prologue, so yeah, it's quite long of a prologue, believe me. The game just forces you in automatically. Let's actually go and climb up these stairways to reach the top of this dang habitat unit, and as you can see, wow, what a great view indeed. Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles is known for all the pretty views in the game, and it's no exception here. So, let us actually enter the habitat unit and see what we can do to jog our memory.
Well, here we are. Not too shabby, huh? For a giant beached spaceship, anyway. But, like it or not, this place is our home now. We took the name from the city it was modeled after back on Earth. We call it New Los Angeles. Welcome to NLA.
And so it was that another survivor came to join our band of refugees. Together, we resolved to forge a new way of life here on Mira. Come what may. New LA was our beautiful lie to ourselves. Truth is, we were adrift, heading into the unknown. Our native home was gone, swallowed in a shroud of light. And our future was uncertain. We had no idea what fate lay in store for us. Only that we had to keep living in order to see it.
Welcome to Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. And next time, we will enter the city itself of NLA. The female voice actors, or rather actresses, have many different voices. Some are different than others. One in particular had the requirement of, unfortunately, needing a recast because some actors did not come back. This is other for another character in the game as well. So, let's go down the list of actors' voices, starting from the top to the bottom.
Ha! Hey! Huh? Alright, let me staggered me. Huh?
Hey there! So what if you staggered me? Here we go! So what if you staggered me?
I've lost my balance! Hello? I've lost my balance! I've lost my balance! Ah! Success!
What do you say? We did great! We did great! What do you say? Ugh, I hate losing my balance. You're in good hands now. Huh? Hey, hey! Whoop. Whoop. Oh, all right. Oh, all right. Hey, hey! Hey, hey! What? We sure owned them. What? Yay! We win! Yay! We win! Let's get on with it. Hello. Yay! We win!
Shall we? Just tell me what to do. Huh? Huh? I've been staggered. Just tell me what to do. Shall we? Just tell me what to do.